without you. Are you sure you want to leave? No. I guess we're live. Yeah, I don't know if that's the first time it popped up that it popped up that message. I'm gonna move to Twitter really quick and
See if we're
see if
there.
we're live. Oh yeah, we're live. Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
We should be all good. I'm gonna check it just to make sure it looks all right.
Nice.
Yep, we are all good.
I love
All
it.
right. Well, Alan, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can go ahead and get started.
Yeah. Not going to touch on it, but just kind of a good night to be distracted. I'll just say that much. With everything that's going on, and we had a full schedule and some recruiting things go on with Louisville men's basketball. So I would not rather talk about anything else tonight than this, Jake.
Yeah,
I appreciate to have you here too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just realized that I changed everything, all the titles and everything from the football podcast, and we've got the football stadium as our background, but that's okay. It is football season, so it is very fitting. But yeah, I
Yeah.
am Jay Cook, joined by Alan Thomas, and today we are going to break down. We're going to start with a little bit of recruiting news. We've got a few tidbits that have came out over the past couple of hours, past few days as well, and then we're going to move into the schedule. We've seen the non-con, but just recently we got the conference schedule out, and so we'll break that down. But first, let's start off with a little bit of recruiting news. It seems like number one on Louisville's board right now is Talon Kinney. So anytime
Hmm.
there's news, I want to talk about it. I want to be the first to know. He did take a visit to Oregon. We spoke about him last week going to Oregon and then to Miami and Texas. He
Uh-huh.
did take the Oregon visit, but he just recently canceled his Texas and Miami visit. Still does have an Arkansas visit that he hasn't canceled yet, but now it was a top 8: Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisville, Miami, Oregon, Texas. That I assume would now be cut down. Take out Miami, take out Texas. What were your thoughts when you saw that news? One of Louisville's top prospects in this class of 2026 canceling 2 visits.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on him hard, and it's one of those things that, like, you just from the past few years of recruiting woes that we've had, with Kenny Payne, God bless him. We haven't really seen that yet. We've seen Kelsey, quote unquote, whiff on a couple, but we've, made up for it in other ways. So Taylor Kinney is kind of the one now that the Tyron Stokes. I know Pat is out in California right now, and one of the people he is seeing is Tyron Stokes. So that feels good to read that on paper, knowing that he's in person talking to him. But Taylor Kinney is kind of the one that I've really zeroed in on. I think the rest of the fan base too. So when you see him cancel other visits, and you're still one of the few, it leads you to believe that you or someone is the apple of his eye at this point. So I think for Louisville fans at this point, he's kind of I won't say a definite must get because I know we've reached out to Darren Rippey as well, another point guard, excellent player, just like Taylor Kinney, very high ceiling. So I guess my gut reaction on that is not going to freak out, but I do have some PTSD from past experiences when he cancels visits and then we just get left out in the cold. So, but whatever, that's just my brain telling me, to freak out about stuff that happens. So I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing but good news for him canceling visits. We spoke about it last week, but Joe Tipton, I believe, was the one that reported Louisville is still the leader for Kenny right now, but Kansas building strong momentum, and then Indiana in third place. So he's an Adidas athlete, and it seems like he just eliminated, I guess, an Adidas and a Nike school in
Hmm.
Texas and Miami.
Hmm.
But as far as we're aware, he is focused on Adidas schools, so that bodes well for Louisville as well. Before we move into the next group, do want to shout out Andrew and want to shout out Jordan. Thank you all for watching, and we hope that we
Yes.
entertain you today. Um,
Let's
the
go.
next guy we're going to talk about is one that we spoke about last week, but there's just a little bit of news. Colbin Landrew,
Hmm.
former football recruit 2 years ago, moved in to solely focus on basketball now. He visited a couple years ago for a Louisville football game, and then he visited a couple weekends ago the Louisville basketball team. We talked about him. Really, the big thing to note about him is we talked about he was a top 70 recruit just last week, and we said that he was likely to jump top 40s, top 30s, maybe even top 20s. Well, in the latest rankings, he's now jumped to number 16 in the class.
Yeah, 6'6" bulldog. He's kind of, if you like Tyron Stokes' game and you like the way Tyron Stokes just kind of manhandles. And that's kind of, it's like the Montrez mentality. Not saying he's going to be Montrez, either of them would be, but it's just that mentality of I am imposing my will. Colvin Landry does that, and being like we talked about it on the last podcast with Roman. Shout out Roman, by the way. I know he was under the knife today or yesterday, and he's
Oh,
just
yeah.
recovering. So, but Colvin is a physical guy. And again, he moves his torso. The thing that I noticed is how much he moves his torso. And I know I keep talking about that, but like that's a rare thing, and still able to protect the ball and create a bubble around you when you're, trying to get into the lane. So I think Louisville fans, like I said, if you like the Tyrant Stokes flavor of player, you're going to like Colvin a lot.
Yeah, I was about to say we were trying to get Roman on here off of Percocet, but he declined our invitation, and we do hope that he's doing all right in his recovery. Last thing
Yeah.
on Landry, visited Louisville a couple weeks ago, and then today Jamie Shaw came out and was quoted as saying, talking with sources around the recruitment, around Landry's recruitment, Louisville is the school that I'm hearing the most. One source recently told me that the Cardinals were currently the program everyone is chasing in this Landry recruitment. And then later on in the article, he talks about the number 2 team in his eye is Mississippi State. Landry, I believe, is in California now, but is originally from Mississippi. So it looks like it is us and Mississippi State right now as the 2 top guys in this recruit that is rising.
Okay.
Other player in the class of 2026 that we did not talk about last weekend is Josh Irving. He is a 6'10 center, a top 50, right on the fringe of top 50 guy in the class of 2026. So a pretty high 4-star. He announced Louisville in his top 7 a few weeks ago. He talked about Coach Ronnie Hamilton being a big reason why he likes the Cardinals. And he is expected to visit with Louisville next week. I know that you broke down some of Irving's tape earlier this morning. So what are your thoughts on this guy? Has us in the top 7. And as far as I'm aware, I know we talked about a big man in last week's podcast that had us in his top 8, but he, I believe, has now eliminated Louisville from his decision. So what are your thoughts on what seems to be Louisville's top prospects when it comes to bigs in this class of 2026?
Yeah, a really, really long kid. A really good motor, and really, I mean, not that he has endless energy. I think he has room to get bigger. He's kind of like, I think he may be still growing, an inch or two. He's just very lengthy. If you look at him on tape, he's just very long. Lots of effort on the defensive end. There's several clips, not even just one or two, several where he went and got a block. And I think he averaged like 3 blocks a game in the Pro 16. Where he go and get a block, some off the backboard, some just, blocked his defender. And the defender comes back, like muscles is, even a second or two later, muscles Josh down a little bit, and he'll get another block. Like I said, several clips where he got multiple blocks, and that's probably why he came up with the 2 or 3 blocks per game in the Pro 16. But my main reaction with watching his tape is he's just the perfect Pat Kelsey dunker spot guy. And I really liked James Scott, like last year. He was one that I think got away, and I think he's going to do well at Ole Miss. And I know, like when he left, everybody kind of did the UK fan reaction where it's like, well, the grass ain't always greener. He's gonna, he wasn't that good or whatever. All this stuff. I thought he was perfect for what Pat Kelsey likes in his bigs. He does a great job of the pick and roll, where he is very sneaky in that space behind the defender, where he can kind of seal off his defender and get behind the guard's defender. I mean, he just it always seems like he had a few feet of bubble space around him to operate. Lots of highlights of him doing that, streaking down the middle of the paint, dunking. A few of his highlights are him hiding in the dunker spot. He did a great job of that, almost seeming disinterested in the dunker spot, turning and then pivoting and coming into it like it was a setup thing for his team. This is a 2024 highlight that I'm referencing on that. Just kind of I think with Pat Kelsey, he could be just a creative guy. He seems to have a very creative way to create space for himself and, just to be able to operate. I really liked what I saw.
Yeah, I think that James Scott comparison is accurate. Right now, 6'10", only 200 pounds, so a bit on the lighter side. Can get pushed around a little bit, but smooth, great shot blocker, great lob threat, great around the rim in general. Haven't seen his game develop on the perimeter just yet, but he's only, I think, 17, 18 years old, so he'd have time to do that. But I like the James Scott comparison. So if no one's seen his game, I think that's a good guy that you could see how James Scott fit, and then hopefully rising even more with some of his skills, particularly on the offensive end.
Hmm.
Before we get done with recruiting, we're going to move on to the class of 2028. And I know it sounds far away, but if you're not in on the guys now, then you're late to the party. So the state of Kentucky, I believe, has 3 guys in the top 100 in the class of 2028, and
Hmm.
the city of Louisville, I guess Louisville and the surrounding area, actually has 4 guys in the top 100. Josh Lindsay, Boogie Cook, Noah Washington, and then Trey Hillerich. I think he's from Mail. I don't know how to say it. You might know how to say his name, Al.
No, that was right. He went to JCTMS, played varsity, may have started a couple games varsity against Mail. Yeah, yeah, Trey. I mean, I'll just start since we're talking about Trey. That's a guy that just very coachable. Got to see
Mm-hmm.
him up close and personal a few times. We played against him a few times. Just kind of a dominant, force down there. He's tall. He actually, this is a kid that played some AAU, but really, if you're familiar with the program, Phil Morrison over at Mid America runs a program called Hoops for Christ, and he runs it with Terrence Farley. This is a Hoops for Christ product. So anybody that tells you Hoops for Christ doesn't produce anybody, this is a prime example. This is a kid that just came in humble to Hoops for Christ. Phil Morrison is an incredible trainer, one of the best I've ever seen, and just kind of with the mentals and everything. And it looks like because we saw Hoops for Christ up close and personal. It looks like Trey kind of took all that to heart. Um, he doesn't complain. He's just doesn't hang his head. Just a confident kid, and yeah, I think he's gotten a little bit taller since the last time I watched him play. But yeah, a good get for anybody if he goes low D1 or D1 at all. I mean he may even be underrated a little bit when it's all said and done. But Boogie Cook, yeah, that's a kid. Watched him play once in person. Again, like I don't watch tapes of kids I've seen in person because it's you can just go from what you see off the hip. Just again, just an athletic kid, and he's gotten very much athletic even over the past 2 years where he wasn't as much. At the end of junior high, whatever. Like some of these kids, you can just tell, like Josh Lindsay. But I don't know who's on Boogie's list. I didn't even who are his schools.
I would have to go and look that up, but I know
Yeah.
as of yesterday, Auburn and Louisville seem to be the top 2 schools right now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really early in the recruitment, but
Hmm.
Louisville and Auburn were both in to see him yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah, I mean, just athletic, that's Bruce Pearl for you. He's going to go get dogs. So that makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. And honestly, yeah, the sky may be way higher for him, the ceiling anyway, way higher for him than most in the state. I mean, that's a kid that I guess has just taken his training very seriously over the past 2 years because he's made a big jump, just physically, like with the eye test from
Mhm.
other kids. So
Yeah, this class of 2026, I thought was probably the best we've had in Kentucky in a long time. I know Tieran Stokes isn't in Kentucky anymore. Tay Kenny isn't in Kentucky anymore. And then at one point, Jaden Johnson was a highly ranked recruit. But it looks like to me this class of 2028 could be even better. You've got Josh Lindsay at St. X. He's number 16 in the class. And then you've got Boogie Cook, who's number 33 in the class. He
mhm.
goes to Christian Academy of Louisville. You got Noah Washington, who plays at New Albany, which isn't in Louisville, but it's right across the bridge. He's at 71. And then the Trey Hillerich, he's number 98 right now in the class of 2028, goes to Male. So
Wow.
that's an incredible amount of talent in the Louisville area. I can't ever remember seeing 4 dudes in the Louisville area being ranked top 100.
Yeah, maybe you'd have to go back. I mean, don't quote me on this. This is an old man take, I guess, but you may have to go back to the 90s, maybe, because I mean, this is back when you had, in Kentucky, you had Tick Rogers, you had Alvin Sims, BJ Flynn was Jeffersonville, DeJuan Wheat. And again, these guys came in different years, but like of that 5 year span, it was crazy. Like Brian Kaiser, these are all just Louisville players. I mean, there were other players too, like Scott Padgett, went to St. X and then went on to Kentucky. Um, and several other players that I'm not mentioning that went to Kentucky. I mean, they're probably yelling at me in the on the screen if they're on here right now, like Pelfrey and Richie Farmer. So yeah, we had some guys, but that was back before all these rankings were like dead serious. I mean, back then
Yeah.
it was the Parade All American, if I'm not mistaken, that they went by. So whoever was number one in Parade All American, that was the best player in the class. So. I don't know. And Louisville only had a number 2 guy, it was like in the '60s, Mike Grosso, was a parade All-American. So that's what they went by then. This now it's like we're nuts. We have, like this. We have podcasts where we just talk about this stuff all the time. Back then, it would be a little snippet in the paper, and they're like, "Oh, who's the kid? Oh, that's nice." And you go about reading about what World War III or World War II, or whatever was going on at the time.
Yeah, I was about to say, now I'm on TikTok and I see number one ranked point guard in the class of 2037, and it's like a 5-year-old, and I'm like, he's playing on
Yeah,
a 7-foot rim. Let's
yeah.
slow down. Let's slow down just a little bit. But
Uh-huh.
that'll do it for the recruiting portion of this. Now on to the main segment of our
Yes.
podcast. We're going to go into the schedule. And how long ago was it that the non-conference got announced? That was
Like a
a
month
month ago.
ago.
Does that
Yeah.
feel right? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I
Ish.
was
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, about a month ago, we got the non-conference released, and then I believe yesterday we got the full conference schedule released as well. And so Alan made this graphic. It's beautiful. Graphic design is his passion, but I
Yes.
couldn't find it anywhere. The conference and the non-con schedule put together. So this is what we are working with.
Yeah.
So just off the rip, you've seen the schedule. It's been out for more than 24 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a chunk of games, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, however long it goes, that stick out to you as like that's the gauntlet. Like that is, if we can go 4-2 in those 6 games, 5-1 in those 6 games, we're going to be a top 2 seed.
Yeah. So I think in the non-conference, it's starting with there's just 4 games in a row at Tennessee, or I'm sorry, at Arkansas in Fayetteville, like a true road game. Whatever we've talked about this, how are they road games or neutral? There's going to be 90% of their fans, whatever. At Arkansas in Fayetteville, Indiana in Indianapolis feels like a road game ish. We'll probably travel well. Oh, it's doing the thing again where I hold up. Can you see me?
Yeah, yeah. You just got balloons. Congratulations on whatever the news was.
Yeah, dude, and this happened one time in a different live stream or whatever it was. I was with Presley and I was counting stuff, and I stuck up a 1 and a 2, and then the balloons came again. So funny. Anyway, let me get back to business, and I won't put up fingers or distract anybody with balloons. So at Arkansas and Fayetteville, Indiana in Indy, Memphis in the Yum Center. I still think that's going to be kind of a dogfight and a trap game, mind you. And then at Tennessee and Knoxville, I think that's a brutal stretch, and that's only 13 days, 4 games. 4 of those games are in less than 2 weeks. So I think that's brutal, and that's just non-conference. But the one that really stuck out to me, and I shared this last night on Twitter, was you have, and it's starting with the home game. Will Wade comes into town with NC State, and that is on February 9th. From that, you go, let's see, February 9th, you go into, so that's in, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute too. That's in Dallas. I'm sorry, that's in, where are we at? I'm sorry, that's in Louisville. The next one is, what happened? Okay, here we
You're
go.
talking about, so yeah, NC State's at
Oh,
home, and then Baylor
oh,
is neutral site in Fort Worth.
yeah, I lost my screen. Sorry. I had my small graphic here. Yeah, NC State on the 9th. Then you have Baylor on the 14th in Fort Worth. Then you have SMU in Dallas. Mind you, those are just a few days away. Those are like 3 or 4 days away, Dallas and Fort Worth. So the team will probably stay there. I'm going to get into that in just a second about how Pat Kelsey's a genius. And then you go into you have Georgia Tech at home. But that's that. We lost that game last year. He was on the road, to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. But that was one of the stunners that we were like, man, we just felt like we weren't the better team that day. And then you have North Carolina and Clemson on the road. And I think so. Let me just read that real quick again. NC State at home, uh, Baylor in Fort Worth, SMU on the road, Georgia Tech at North Carolina at Clemson. Now, to me, that is the gauntlet. Because you have like some old from losses past in Georgia Tech. That could very well be a trap game if you're getting up for these other games so much. Your preparation may slip a little bit. You may overlook some things. Georgia Tech may have nothing to lose at that point, just like they did last season. It's just it could. And this is a much better team, but it could be not that it could be a nightmare, but it could be troubling. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
What
no,
about
I,
you?
I agree. When I looked at it, the non-conference was the exact same. Arkansas on the road, Indiana neutral site, Memphis at home, and then at Tennessee in Knoxville. That was, to me, clearly the toughest stretch in the non-con. And then the conference stretch that stuck out to me the most is really similar to yours. Mine just starts a few games before and then ends a few games before yours. But mine is the stretch from January 26th to February 17th. So that is at Duke, only 1 day of rest after the Virginia Tech game. So that'll be a Saturday and then a big Monday game with only 1 day of rest in between. Then you go home SMU, home Notre Dame. So maybe a little bit of a reprieve. I think SMU will be good. I don't know about Wake Forest.
Yeah.
But then you go, this is where your schedule picked up, home NC State, neutral Baylor, and then at SMU. So that is a gauntlet. And in those 6 games, if Louisville goes 4-2, I'm taking that 100%.
Yeah, and what you're saying, like that, the real gauntlet could be, the ones that we're overlooking. And when I'm first looking at it, I'm kind of skimming through games because I'm like, no, where's the meat and potatoes of this schedule altogether? And it's different looking at, again, the graphics that I famously put together is the two separate schedules, and I'd love to be able to mesh those together. And I know the university will do that probably the next few days, the next week, they're going to put it all together for us. But what you're saying, like the ones that we look over are the ones that potentially are the most dangerous, most detrimental. But one of the takes I had about the schedule that I really appreciated, I guess, from Mr. Kelsey, Coach Kelsey, is that you have Montana. The Montana game where is that? The Montana game is on. Why can't I find this stuff? There it is.
Looks like Montana is 12-20.
12-20, my fault. I was looking up in the conference schedule. 12-20 Montana, right? So then you have a 10 to 11 day holiday break, so a nice gap. And playing Montana should be a nice win for us. Should be might cover ish, whatever. Should win that game. Then you hit Cali, and we all noticed that he hit Cali out the gate, back to back, bam, bam.
Love that.
But yeah, and both of those teams are going to be gunning for us. You want to get them early, honestly, before they gel completely as well. Not that we'll be completely gelled, but I love the going to Cali and staying for a little bit. You'll probably stay a few days and just ride both of those out. So, that the logistics of that are smart. The Baylor in Fort Worth and SMU in Dallas, 3 or 4 days apart, I think was smart. There's no way they come home after that. I think they just spend a week in Texas doing that. So I think that was smart. Just kind of like, hey guys, we're here. We're going to conquer Texas together. We're here. We're in Cali. We're going to conquer Cali together. I think that mentality was kind of wise. Putting this together. Not that it was all Pat Kelsey. Like there's a lot of people that go into the logistics of this stuff. But the other one is, and they might come home in between this, but the whole maybe conquering quote unquote Tobacco Road when you have you at UNC and at Clemson, getting up for both of those games only a few days apart. I think you can kind of lock in again, like he has it to where he can lock himself in and his guys in on paper for like a week at a time and just be like, we're going to go do this. And we're taking names, we're kicking ass, taking names. I'm not saying that's what they did, but on paper, when I just see the traveling and the logistics part of it, like that makes sense to me that he was like, hey, if I'm playing this game, I'm playing this game right next to it. And mind you, they probably won't go from Chapel Hill to Clemson. Like that's 5 days away from each other, those dates. Mm-hmm. They probably won't do that, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me if that was part of the plan, just to lodge everybody, for a week, just to, for the sake of not going back and forth. You may encounter some weather or whatever, it is February. So I was kind of impressed with the logistics of that. And like I said, whoever is in charge of that, ahead of that, kudos to you. Hats off to you. Literally, hats off. No hats.
Yeah. I fully agree on the California thing. I believe everyone in the ACC, if they go play Cal, they're playing Stanford next. If I believe they try to keep it home, away. So everyone's going to get that's going to travel to see them. But I really like having it at the beginning of the season. You fly those 2,000 whatever miles it is away, and you get it done, and then you get a 5-day break until Duke. I really like that a lot. I'm glad that it's not just smack dab in the middle of the schedule or towards the end. That to me feels like a letdown area where you think, oh, it's just Cal, oh, it's just Stanford, but you don't factor into it. Time zones, jet lag, 2,000 miles traveled, all that. So I really like that it's at the beginning of the season. I would love to see that happen every single season, but I doubt we get that lucky. Now we move on. We got about 10 minutes left until we got to get out of here. But I did want to look at it. I was skimming through the schedule, 30 games, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
And just kind of off the top of my head, I was looking. I think we've got probably at minimum 8 ranked games on this calendar. And I counted up to like 13, 14 potential ranked games if teams
Yeah.
like Indiana, Memphis, Virginia, SMU, Baylor, or Clemson get ranked.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you seeing the same thing as well?
I'm glad that you have a learning curve, or not a learning curve, but kind of like a wide margin, because what it could be and what it could be and what it could be. Because I was kind of counting in like preliminary. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have 1 and 2, and I'm like, oh, who knows? Pittsburgh might be really good. There's 3, and I'm like counting like the plethora of games. And mind you, like you're gonna play teams, and they're gonna either beat you or you beat them, and eventually they fall out, and they won't be a ranked game at the end of the year. When it shows up on your paperwork, in your rankings or numerics or whatever. But yeah, I mean, when you play them matters as well. But yeah, I kind of did the same thing, and I think my safe number for not too high was 11, and my safe number for not too low was 7. So I kind of have
Mm-hmm.
I think my healthy prediction would be like an 8 or 9 games, and I just thinking about last year, I'm not sure that we played what, like maybe 4 or 5. I'm really not sure, because I know Kentucky, Clemson were probably ranked games. Duke,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so maybe 4 to 7 last year. So anything more than that, especially in the non-conference, that way, like Pat Kelsey said, like they're gonna know we didn't duck the smoke.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you look at this. I'm looking through it right now. So Louisville last year played 11 quad one games, and went 4-7. Then played 12 quad two games, 7 quad 3, and then 5 quad 4. To me, I think we've got a guaranteed probably 13 quad one games with the home, away, and neutral sites. You got Kentucky, Arkansas, Duke twice, Tennessee, NC State, Indiana, Memphis, Virginia, SMU twice, Baylor, Clemson. So that's 13 games right there. I'd say probably at least 12 of those are guaranteed to be quad one at worst. And that doesn't even include a team like Florida State or Pittsburgh or Notre Dame or somebody surprising you and jumping up into that quad one area with a little bit better season than we expect. But looking at all that, seeing at least 10 quad one games as potential resume builders,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think Louisville's record has to be a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament come March 2026?
Well, this is a difficult, and I thought about this earlier. It's a difficult journey to go, because we watch teams get what, 4, 3, 4, 5 seeds with double digit losses. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of the mentality, is that we're going to play these games, and if we I think running up the score, not allowing teams to run up the score on you, which I don't think is going to happen. Maybe even not even twice, maybe not even once this year. But I think like letting games get away from you, or even losing like a stinker, to a team like I mean, Miami might be pretty good. I have no idea like how good they're going to be, but say you go in there and lose by like 15 in Coral Gables on March 7th, like that might leave a stench. But at the end of the day, like I don't know, it's tough. It's out of 30 games. So I think for the non-conference, I had us losing 2 of those, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
ones I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they were Arkansas, and then like pencil in a stinker. But I think Arkansas and Baylor were the ones that I had us like just like circumstantially losing those games. So for the conference, I can do this live for you. California win, Stanford win. I think we're going to lose one of these Duke games, so that's one. I think we're going to lose one of the SMU games this year. I think that's 2. Uh, I think we lose another stupid road game. Like I said, I think that my gut tells me like Miami or Clemson, so that's 3. Um, I think we have 3, yeah, 3 conference losses, because I do think we get Duke once this year. I think we get them at least once. So 3 conference losses and 2 non-conference. So 5 losses. What is that? 25-5 out of 30 games.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, give or take.
I mean, people can argue, oh yeah, pump the sunshine. Well, I just said we would lose a stinker. A lot of people are not going to predict that, and I mean, I think that's just a Louisville thing. Since the beginning of my fanhood, there's been at least one of those on the schedule. Whether it's Towson State in the '90s that we all remember, all of us old people, or Georgia Tech last year, like it's bound to happen. It just that's my the mouse in my brain as I keep referencing him. That's what he tells me. Is that it's going to happen. What did you think? Like overall record, like off the hip, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't broke down the schedule game by game, and it's always tough to do.
Yes.
But I was looking at the one seeds last year and the two seeds last year. They had between 3 and 5 losses. I think Duke had 3 losses and Auburn had 5. And then last year, the two seeds had between 4 and 8 losses. Those 7, 8
Mm-hmm.
loss teams were SEC teams. So I don't think if we lose 8 games, I don't think we're a 1 or 2 seed, just because we're not playing in the SEC.
Yeah.
But with your prediction, 5 losses, I think a 1 seed is attainable. I think a 2 seed would almost be guaranteed. I see us
Mm-hmm.
probably somewhere in that 5 to 6 to maybe 7 losses. And I think that would keep us at a 2, 3 seed, probably at worst. The 3 seeds last year had 8 to 12 losses.
Mm-hmm.
And again, those 12 loss teams were SEC teams.
Yeah.
I just keep repeating that.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, if we lose, I think anywhere 8 or fewer games, I think we're a top 4 seed. But a lot of that will also just depend on what do we do in quad one, because last year we lost 8 games and we were an 8 seed. Well, that's because we went 4 and 7, and I think we should have been higher seeded. But the selection committee's decision making was because we went 4 and 7 in quad one.
Yeah.
So if we have 8 losses, but 7 of those come from quad one, and we're perfect in quad three, perfect in quad four, and only one quad two loss, we could be looking at a seed outside of the top 4. But if we're able to go above 500 in those, what we're predicting, 12, 13 quad one games, we go 7-5, 8-4, something like that. I don't think there's any way that the committee could be able to keep us out of a top 2 seed.
Yeah. And ask any Louisville fan that's looking along with us right now or has looked over the schedule, which I know that's everybody. Everybody has done that. And you've counted the losses and the wins in your head. I think at the end of the day, we would take for me, I'll just say for me, if we end up being not as good as we think we are, and we end up with like a 5 or 6 seed, I'm going to think that's not that it's a failure, but I'm going to be disappointed in a 5 or 6 seed, knowing all the hype that's gone in, knowing the transfer portal that we've got in. We have the best point guard in the country, and knowing Pat Kelsey's formula of what he's looking for and how he's going to build rosters moving forward, seemingly what he looks like to me, what he's trying to do. But I think anybody would take 4 and above. We've always done well because we're nuts. We're like when we see 4 seed next to Louisville, we're gonna be like, hey, that means that's good news. That means we can go far with a 4 seed. We've always done well with a 4 seed, even a 3 seed. We went to I want to say that was a 6 seed in '05, I think. But anyway, even a 3 seed, if I remember correctly, we've always done pretty well. So I think anybody would take 4 or higher. I think people may be screaming at the screen right now saying like, yeah, you're an idiot. I would take anything like 6 or above, 6'5", whatever. Just me though, if I'm, with everything that's going into this off season and really what we need to jump to establish ourselves and like put our nuts back on the table, so to speak. We really need to be a top 4 seed. And I think you really have to do that with or you really have to make a 2 or a 1 seed this year. Even though the schedule is insane and I think Pat Kelsey is quaint enough, and I think he has enough. What's the other word? Couth to him. That I think the committee, not to say that they take that into account, but I think he had some grace with last year, and the people on the committee are human beings. Anything that we do, even if it's you judging something else, the way that person comes off to you is going to be a part of the decision making. So I think the way Pat Kelsey is, the way he carries himself, and the way I mean, a lot of coaches would have got on screen and just ranted and cussed out the NCAA committee for that, and he didn't do that. He just kind of said, "Oh, that was weird. Well, I guess what we're going to do, So we're going to schedule really tough." So I think this year they may not to say that we're going to get favoritism, but they're not going to say they're not. I don't think they're going to. We're going to get the same formula as last year, where it's like, well, they went 20-10, they lost to these teams or whatever, and so we're going to give them a 9 seed. You know what I mean? I think we'll get a little bit more, like just the human bump, if you will, because of how Pat Kelsey handled himself last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely glad the PK decided to hopefully not allow the committee to have it in their own hands. They took it out of it by having such a difficult schedule, having such a challenging schedule, having so many potential quad one victories. We're about to get out of here, but Alan, just real quickly, we didn't plan it, so hopefully I don't catch you off guard too much. But just looking at the schedule right now, we will exclude the Kentucky game because I think that's the obvious answer. If there is one game you can attend on this schedule, home or away, what is the game that you're picking? What's the one that you're most excited about?
Cincinnati, in Cincinnati,
Ooh, okay.
Ohio, and that's just what's the word, nostalgia speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And when you and I broke this down weeks ago with the non-con, and I've kind of been steadfast with that. I just love the city of Cincinnati. I think there's a lot to do. I just went there a few weeks ago for a punk rock concert. It was great. I love driving through Cincinnati. I love the vibe. We were even in not even the cool part that everybody likes to hang out, the trendy part of Cincinnati. We were in East Cincinnati with all the hills and stuff like that on the river
Mm-hmm.
at this venue. So I would just I want to go to that because I feel like it'll be a lot of feels. B, Louisville can win it, and C, like I can enjoy. It's a Friday night if I'm not mistaken. I can like make a weekend out of that potentially. That's just me and thinking out loud. Now, if we're talking about conference in conference game, like I really, really, and everybody would say this, I really want to go to the Duke game so bad. Like we owe them licks, man, and I think that's a way we get them first at home. It's a good way to kind of, and it's right, like you said, it's right after the California trip. Such a good way to burst onto the scene like Kool-Aid Man. If you're Pat Kelsey and this team to kind of be like, oh yeah, we're here, we're back. So you now that we have all the games, what's the one that is on the top of your list of wanting to go to?
Yeah, there are a ton of games. North Carolina, Duke, obviously some of the easier ones, Tennessee, but my preference would probably be Indiana, a neutral site game.
Mm,
So I assume that's at Gainbridge. I don't know. It just says
yes.
Indianapolis, Indiana, but I assume it's at Gainbridge. Obviously it'll be more Indiana fans being so close to Bloomington and a little bit further away than Louisville, but I think it'll still hopefully be 70-30, 60-40 Louisville fans there. And I want some get back on Indiana. They flaked on us on the football side of things, and
Mm-hmm.
and people are hyped about this Indiana team, and I would really love to see us shut that down. So if any of the games I could pick, it would have to be Indiana in Indianapolis. A close number two would be North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I think
Mm.
that would be an incredible game to go to. All right, Al, you got to get out of here. So I am going to cut us off. Alan, thank you so much for talking to us. And for all those watching live, thank you for watching and listening. This has been another episode of the Starting 502 podcast. I'm Jay
Yes,
Cook,
sir.
Alan Thomas. Thanks for listening. And we should talk to you guys in just a week.
Go Cars, baby.